Welcome to Reflections, the podcast that biblically encourages, equips, and empowers women for apostolic life and service. Here's your host, Dr. Cindy Miller.
Welcome to Let's Talk. Today we're diving into the world of podcasting, specifically apostolic women who podcast. So for those of you who do not know, podcasts kind of became a thing, but the beginning started in 2004, and now there are millions of voices and stories and ideas out there. In our denomination, we're blessed to have many podcasters. We have some wonderful ones out there, and some of them are providing spiritual helps or teaching doctrine. There's personal growth or just simply connecting women to other women around ideas that they love to share. So with so many podcasts out there, the question that we're asking today is why one more? Why should there be one more voice out there? And so that's kind of what we're going to get into. With me today is my co-host and my dear friend, Jennie Russell, and I'm happy to have you with us today.
Always a fun time.
And also our guest, Leanne Alexander. And for those of you who do not know Leanne, even though you were with us last year, you were with us for Women Who Write, and that was so fun. But she is Associate Editor-in-Chief of the United Pentecostal Church International and Senior Vice President of Pentecostal Resources Group. She's authored 4 books and is host of the Whollyness Podcast. She's an ordained minister of the UPCI and serves as a teacher in her local church. And welcome, Leanne. We are so glad to have you.
I'm excited to have a fun conversation together.
Yeah, it's always good to be together. So we want to just start with you talking to us, our listeners, about your podcast. What's going on with it? What are you doing? How's it going?
Well, as you mentioned, it's called the Whollyness Podcast, and I have a little fun with that word. You know, the grammar nerd in me, I have to spell it quirky, and it's a play on, of course, the biblical word holy, but then also that word whole with a W. And so I talk through what is that connection between being holy, complete, and blameless before God, but then also whole as a person, spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally. That part, I will admit, I lean on a lot of guests who that's more their expertise, but just really thinking about what it means to be a whole person, and we don't just live for God in this box, but pushing down those different compartmentalization tendencies.
Love it.
And trying to be whole and holy in every area of life. And I should say, in some ways, it's really a podcast of Pentecostal Resources Group. But since I was the one who thought it up, they let me host it. But I do lean on them for
if we have the great
background.
idea, somehow we get the job.
That
right?
kind of is how that works.
That's how it works.
It is amazing how that's a connection. But yes, it's been a really fun journey to have a lot of fun conversations and bring in some great guests who've just added so much.
Like I get to bring you
conversation.
in, right?
Hey, look at that! Look at that!
So much fun. So when you started thinking about this idea, and you said it was your idea to begin with, why a podcast? Why not another book? You've written several.
Yeah. Okay, so I just last night actually heard, and it was one of those deals I was trying to think, like, how can I give credit to this? Because somebody said, I heard that somebody said one of these things. I have no idea. Somebody's going to Google it now, listen to the episode and be like, you know, I'm probably misquoting some famous person. But the quote was, most people are either speakers who write or writers who speak. And we had this fun conversation last night, and it was like, if you could only ever speak, at a church or in your local church or wherever, but never write again, would you do that? Or if you could only ever write again, but never speak? And they're trying to get me to answer the question. And I just absolutely dug in my heels. I'm like, I can't answer that. I just don't know what I would do. And I think that probably tells me about myself. I'm a communicator.
Yes.
Sometimes the door opens and I get to speak somewhere, and I love that, and I'm thankful for the opportunity. I am a writer by profession, and I think by gifts God has placed in my life, but ultimately I'm just a communicator. And so whatever door opens, so be it. The reality is, and this is hard for me to say because I probably do lean to that writer side, the reality is it is just so much more convenient to listen to a half-hour podcast than to read the chapter in that book you've had on the nightstand for 3 months that you keep saying you're going to read. But it's tougher to carve out that time to read a physical book than I can push play while I'm driving to work.
Yeah, that's my time.
Yeah.
Driving, sitting in airport, which I spend a lot of time in airports. Okay, I want to go back to that question. So, Jennie, if you could only write or speak,
Oh, that is
It's
so,
tough.
it
It's
is.
tough.
What would you do?
I don't know. I think I would write because I like to think things through, and I can come up with some really profound thoughts after 3 or 4 or 5 different revisions.
Yeah, you can revise. It's not live.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I speak through with notes. So I would
Yeah.
I will be a writer, and I don't like to hear myself. So that's probably another reason. I never go back and listen to our podcast.
Really?
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
I know we have really great
They're
content.
really great. They're
Oh,
amazing.
They are.
It
But
is.
I watch all your other podcasts.
Oh,
So
thank
The
you.
good
Thank
clarification.
you.
Yeah, good
So
job. Good job.
just the ones you're
just
on.
the ones
Okay.
I'm on. I figure I just don't like to hear my voice. So I think I'm a writer.
Well,
But
y'all-
what about you, though?
You know what? I love my classroom and I love teaching, and the thought of never being in the classroom to teach
Yeah.
again, even though I enjoy writing, the idea that I would not be in the classroom teaching is
That's
unacceptable.
yeah. I can't. And
It can't be. It can't happen.
yeah, I should say writing, but based on my job and my, I should say writing. But I'm the same way. I could not get that immediate feedback.
I won't tell your boss.
Don't tell
No,
him.
no.
He probably doesn't listen. Well, we won't ask him if he listens.
I mean,
right?
they're secret. All the men are.
They are
secretly
secretly listening.
yeah.
That's the
they
thing.
are.
That's the thing. Yeah, I should definitely say writing, but part of the difference is the immediate feedback. If I'm in a room, like even right now, I get
Mhm.
to say something and we laugh and we have that instant gratification of feedback. Writing, you're playing the long game. It may go places you never expected to go, and that's beautiful. Yay! But there's something so joyful about getting to talk right now and have this experience together.
But let me throw
Sharing.
this in,
Okay.
okay? Because there are so many podcasts out there. I work at Urshan, and so there are a lot of young people, and even with UGST, so everyone's throwing podcasts at me. But the question I have is, how do you know that you're getting a good podcast? Because for me, I listen to a lot of leadership stuff. I'm looking to see who is that podcaster, what's their life. I want to listen to Apostolics. There's a lot of other great leaders out there, but I'm really looking to see how they line up, because you're getting fed a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So how do you pick your podcasts that you listen
I think
to?
that's really good, because there's some, even my area is counseling,
Mm-hmm.
and I know there's some really popular ones that I've gone to and listened,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm like, oh, and I don't think that's really lining up with
Wait
the
a
Bible
second.
too
Yeah,
well, but
yeah.
they're popular. Like
Sure.
Apostolics are listening. There are so many voices in this world, the Bible says, and we do have to be careful.
Yes.
We have to really evaluate what's being said, because it can sound so good, sound so right, and actually be so wrong.
Right.
So I think we have to be really careful who we're listening to. I know there was a discussion, Jenny, that we had with some of the younger women not too long ago, kind of talking about this podcast, their thoughts and input.
Mhm.
And they had really given some great feedback on, they do enjoy listening.
Oh, yeah. They listen to podcasts all the time. I think because they're so busy and they don't want to pick up one more book.
No, not one
Right.
more.
But yeah, I thought their feedback was really good. But even then, I was pausing in my own mind going, how are you picking the podcast you're
Mhm.
listening to?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just think that, yes, we hear so much what is truth and what is not truth. And we get all mixed up in with that. So how do you both pick your podcasts?
There's probably a parallel here to, any other medium with books. So, if you rewind way back, I couldn't put a date to it, but book reviews were a big deal, be it magazines or
Yeah.
websites that have reviews. And we're probably still early in this technology. At some point, there'll probably be sources that review podcasts. Let's have a podcast about our favorite podcasts, kind of almost what this season is. But I think probably it is social media. Since podcasts are digital anyway, we probably see stuff on social media. And I probably do rely on that word of mouth, or else I see on social media a clip, a few seconds, and it hooks me, which is what it's trying to do anyway. And I see that one hook and I go check it out. I'm like, hey. So I'm probably just, following whatever marketing trail is out there. But I see a clip that I love. And then here I am, X months later, still checking it for new episodes.
And I think it's important to check out the host or who's sponsoring it. Sometimes that'll give you a lot of information that you'd have to listen to several podcasts before you start thinking, okay, this really is the direction that they're going. So I do tend to check out, do a little research into who's hosting it, who's sponsoring it. So I think that's important too. And what would be wonderful from this episode and what we're trying to accomplish is if more women would say, I think the Lord is nudging me, because we do need spirit-filled apostolic women. Since this is ladies ministry sponsored, we need men too. But specifically, our conversation is, where are apostolic women? And we don't all have to say the same thing. It doesn't all have to be theological or a Bible study, but we can bring a lot to the table. There's a lot we can offer, and women should be using their voices for God and for good.
That's really good.
So I'm hoping that there will be this, if God's already been prompting, that this will be the nudge, like, I'm going to give it a try, because it is a great opportunity to get started. But there's a lot of challenges getting started. I mean, it's one thing to get started if you have a studio, a team. I'm looking at a great team right now. And if you have them, wow, what a blessing. Julie Long, Reflections magazine editor, she does such an amazing job with sponsoring, helping, getting us going. You have headquarters helping you. So let's talk about some of the need for vision before you get started, challenges you're absolutely going to face, and what to expect. So when you started, you had Whollyness, you had this play on words, because you do need a catchy, title. So you chose that, and because you are a word nerd and you wanted to have fun with it. I chose Let's Talk because that was kind of something I said all the time. I probably came from my counseling practice. It probably came up because I'd always say, okay, well, let's talk. And people started saying that back to me, and I realized it was something I said a lot. And so that kind of became what we were doing here, using that. So that was the direction. But I knew, and I had kind of some guidelines. Women, this is specifically for women. It's going to be a lot of diverse conversations, but, it's young, old. I didn't have a well-defined, it wasn't going to be like the Cindy Miller hour. So when you were thinking about Whollyness, who did you envision your audience to be?
Yeah, okay, so I'll say from the book side, every author says, my book is for everyone. And okay, every book could be for everyone, but let's get real, right? And so it probably is the same way with podcasts. You do need to, even though people from, could anyone access it? Yes. But who do I really think? For me, I wanted it to appeal to both men and women, but my expectation was, since I'm female, it probably will trend female, and that's fine. I'm not okay. I mean, I'm okay either direction. But what I really, without the sounding ages, I really wanted to appeal to young adults, and then people my age, which I would like to think is still on the young spectrum.
You are.
Thank you. Yes,
This is a baby.
This is an affirming conversation. Thank you. Because I know that those are how to apply Whollyness principles to everyday life is where many young adults hang up in their faith journey. The real questions about how do we apply this to, whatever the fill in the blank with the application. And so because of the subject matter, that kind of informed my audience. I want to have a real burden for helping people talk about Whollyness and push it beyond just it is this on this little list that we seem to make in our minds.
Check the box.
Yes. And so that really kind of pushed me. That burden was kind of connected. Conversation about practical holiness, expanding that into different areas of life, maybe beyond the traditional conversations we've had. And I think that's most important, that young adults, people my age, young professionals, figure out how to have those conversations. So for me, those conversations were connected.
So when you thought about it and you got approval, how did you go about getting started? So I have this great idea. I have an audience in mind.
Right.
Now what?
Right. Well, like you said earlier, huge kudos to the incredible team at Pentecostal Publishing House who helped. So I get that I have an easier time than a lot of people getting started. But surprisingly, with technology today, the threshold has come down in terms of being able to get started and the technology that's out there. I think that we also live in everybody has a phone these days. So I do meet some people who are still a little uncomfortable behind the camera. So if you choose to do both the audio and video side of a podcast, there's a extra loop to think through. If I want this to be on, let's say, YouTube, you have to think about that visual part. Am I comfortable in front of the camera?
Right.
So there's that consideration our listeners today, viewers today would want to think through. But the good news is the software, the platforms, I guess would be the way to say it. It's all available, so you can do both. And if you're comfortable, and most folks are now because we've got our phones and we're constantly videoing, taking pictures,
Right.
that part's accessible. But we did have to just think through that. What's going to be the look and feel? Are we always going to be sitting in a chair in front of a plant, or are we going to be, different places? What's going to be the look and feel? Some very gifted people talk about branding and give suggestions on what all that looks like. Because if we want people to come back and if we want to start what it's going to feel like a community, we need to think through, is there a certain brand and a certain kind of identity that makes it feel like home when you tune in for that next episode?
That I keep hearing that, they want to feel like they're at home with you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's saying that.
And part of that is that look and feel. Even again on the video side, there's the visuals of what you're going to do there. If you're going to have a logo developed so that there's some kind of, when you are pushing it on social media, there's something that's consistent to help people kind of make that connection. Again, with the tech side, you certainly have to think about, if we're doing audio, if we're doing video, what does it look like to edit that?
But how do you find that?
Yeah.
There's not a class for it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there.
But you know
Yeah.
what? Probably there.
I was about to say,
is.
there
You
probably
just
is.
go
Yeah.
online and everybody's like, because people are jumping.
So many
on-
people are
and
doing
for
it.
Some people, it's as as easy as grabbing a mic and
Yeah.
recording themselves, and then they're uploading it. And other people are being very intentional about what they're doing and how they're doing it as best representation.
Absolutely.
And one of the things, that because I started talking to several different women that podcast in preparation for this, and I think one of the things they talked about was it wasn't so much getting that start as far as I'm going to record, but it was really after that, it was, okay, I've done 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm running out of steam.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
Sticking with it.
sense of building content,
Yeah.
continuity. How do you keep going?
Yeah.
So some people were saying, oh, well, I went in and I was talking to someone the other day who said, well, I recorded 17 podcasts in one day. And I felt like, I was an underachiever for sure. But, some people they'll just record a lot of content and then it's released over a period of time. Some are very faithful. They have that Friday morning on their calendar. That's when they're going to go in and do it. So how did you kind of set it up?
Yeah, for me, I like to think in chunks. So I knew what this kind of theme was, this holiness. Well, what does that mean? So I think of the season as a chunk. And so each season I try to have a little different twist on this main theme of holiness. So one season is financial wholeness. One season is emotional wholeness. One season is, spiritual wholeness. And so for me, it's trying to think one season at a time. And depending on, this will be different for each podcaster out there if they're wanting to do, once a week, once a month, or if they do some kind of schedule of certain seasons. I do like to outline all of the content. By outline, if I'm having an interview, I don't know where we're going to go, but I can have, here's what I'm hoping we're going to get out of that conversation. Here's the basic topic. So let's say it's an 8-episode season. I'm thinking through what's the trajectory, what does the flow of conversations look like? Who are the appropriate guests to talk through these certain topics? So for me, that content development looks like thinking in seasons and then thinking about what are the conversations within that theme that season, and then which guests would fit in those different conversations.
So we line ours out about a year in advance. We work a year in advance. So by the time it comes around, I've already forgotten what I'm supposed to be doing. But we have it a year in advance. We're thinking, we're getting approvals on guests, we're looking ahead. But, there's always that one thing that really goes absolutely wrong. Yeah. And then you're scrambling to go, oh my goodness, that guest wasn't able to show up, or the recording didn't go well, or something happened. Yeah. So a lot of flexibility and not panic.
Oh yeah. And I'll say this. Okay. So we may have some folks that are watching and maybe they're wanting to do something for the first time and they've never done any kind of recording. And so for them, it's kind of an adjustment, like getting started, like, oh, I'm stepping up. Well, for me, just because of my job for the last, 5-10 years, I've done a lot of videoing, but it's been very formal, very, very formal. Now, I don't like a teleprompter. They try to get me to use a teleprompter, but it's very scripted. It's very formal, very like on, like dun da da da. And I, I think of just the appropriate smile and all this kind of stuff. And I had a big adjustment because they told me after the first 2 episodes, they're like, I could see they were trying to be very genteel in the way they broke it to me. They're like, you've got to loosen up. You are like on, like you're doing a sales pitch or something. They're like, this is supposed to be a conversation. You're supposed to relax and interact with the guests and not just, host the talk show. It's a little different vibe. And so I think part of it is understanding if it really is a conversation, then the vibe of it is so different. It's not like, you're hosting the NBC Nightly News. I don't know if we can say that, but that was the way I was coming at it. And then everything had to be exactly 28 minutes. And we had to have the guests, do exactly this. And I have exactly these questions. So for me, it was kind of the opposite of getting started kind of, I'm not trying to set myself up as the expert, but it was being able to relax the other direction and just be a little more go with the flow. And I bring that up to answer your question to say there were seasons where a problem happened with the guest or, oh my goodness, this will happen. I promise if you start a podcast, it's going to happen and it will break your heart and crush your spirit, but you got to get back up. You bring in a guest, you do all the thank you and all the stuff. And then a month later when they're looking through the deal, oh, I'm so sorry. The disc is corrupted. And that day, those 3 people that you brought in and their episodes got erased and deleted. I'm so sorry. Yes. And so there are seasons where we didn't have all of the scheduled stuff and, we're probably going to refilm and whatever, but that stuff is going to happen.
It's going to happen.
And part of it
We've had that experience.
You guys have gone through. So part of it is coming at the whole thing with the approach of we're having a conversation. We're going to do our best to have it consistent. We're going to do our best to, but be coming at it from the expectation of if this really is conversational, then we're going to go with the flow and we're going to just have to adapt. And that word, be flexible as things happen that were not part of the plan.
Yes, because even as we've thought through, okay, when we're going to get in, we're going to be talking about this, the script, take it with us. We've gone a whole different direction.
And that will happen too.
The guest also will determine.
Yeah.
Because even if you say, oh, here's our topic and this is what we're hoping to cover, a guest may come in and really have something in their heart on their heart that they feel the need to share. And I mean, I've had a couple of moments where I was sitting there like, okay,
we're going with
not quite sure where to go from here, but okay, I'm tracking. And it's so fun.
Yeah, it is.
It's maybe not what I thought it was going to be, but it turns out to be, what was necessary or needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some other really funny, horrible experiences that you've had that
I don't know if
comfort us to make Jennie and I feel better about the work we do.
I don't know if there is a learning moment. This is just fun because it's funny. It was not funny in the moment, but I'm going to try to laugh now because I want to be a good sport. We tried to capitalize on, we don't have a budget for this, so we're going to try to capitalize. And if we want to have guests, there have been times where I just do the whole season. Now that takes work, and I probably can't get the whole thing done in a week. We're going to break it up. But when we can be at an event where there are going to be a lot of out-of-town guests, that's perfect. We can still film everything. I do like to try to
general conference.
Boom, there we go.
We did
there
that.
we go. Yeah, because I do want to try to film a season in a week or so there's continuity. And if I'm filming this on Thursday, I can remember what we talked about Tuesday, and I'm not trying to remember from 2 weeks ago, right? So general conference. The mecca for podcasting, the whole world's there, right?
Right.
And so I scheduled out, probably like y'all did, all these guests, ding, 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 ding. I am in the middle of a conversation with a guest, and we've created this little pitiful looking, I shouldn't say that. I don't mean that the team did not do a great job, but it was flimsy. Yeah. The walls of you rent from the people and they're going to build this little thing. Well, it doesn't have a roof on it, so it's flimsy. So people would walk by and they would hit the thing. And it's and I'm like, what is happening? This feels so whatever. Okay, so we're already in that mode, and I am trying to remember, I'm trying to go with the flow, and it's fine. But
I'm being recorded.
And I'm being recorded.
No
yes, and I have no poker face, and it's, I'm NBC Nightly News host trying to be flexible, but they're making the things shake. And in the middle of all that, I kid you not, a drone buzzes over our head. And you're trying to do, it's a conversation. We don't want to
Right.
pause it and cut and make edits
No.
and all this. It's trying to just be this organic conversation. And they had told me, right? They had
Right.
told me, like, you've got to relax. It's okay if you mess up. Just keep going. That makes it more real. I'm like, okay, this one's going to be real, right? Because I'm like, I can't help myself. I'm staring up in the air like, what? And I probably have this ridiculous face. So yes, there are those moments where
Okay, I'm feeling better
just go
about
with
my
it.
experiences. Sorry, we did not have a drone at
Yeah, no, we didn't have
conference.
it. But she's also got a lot of interesting characters over there in their area.
I
So
still
I'm
don't
sure
know
that
what
they.
happened.
Well, we didn't have a drone, but I think we did have like a kid in behind us waving at
Oh,
the
yeah.
camera.
Oh, yes.
You know,
Goodness.
it
Come
happens.
on. Yeah.
It happens.
I'm
She's
told
famous.
that makes it better.
It
right?
makes it better.
That's what they're
Hey,
trying to convince me.
We're just keeping it real.
Right.
So, have you gotten any feedback from listeners that either directs how you're going forward or inspires you to keep
Yeah.
going?
Well, definitely it
great
inspires.
story.
Yeah, it definitely inspires to keep going. I'd love to say that when I travel, people come up and are like, "Oh my goodness, I've read your books and they're so great." And every once in a while, somebody will bring up a book, and I do. It's very affirming and encouraging. But I am finding, this kind of circles back to what we said earlier. I'm finding more people, especially that trend younger, are coming up to me and saying something about the podcast. And so I can't just quote, Sister, Jane Doe in whatever state who said, it specifically, this episode changed my life. I don't know that I have that story, but I really took notice at Youth Congress when younger ladies came by and said, "I really like your podcast." And I'm like, okay, that goes back to the purpose. I want to encourage these younger adults to have these conversations. And so, yeah, those are the moments I say, okay, we're going to keep at it. We're going to figure this out. Yeah.
But how do you find your target? I mean, like you said, oh, this is my target audience. I mean, you have, let's talk audience, you have the Whollyness. But how do you reach that audience?
Yeah. What is the marketing plan?
Yeah. Well, and that's where, again, we credit to an incredible team at Pentecostal Resources Group. The marketing team is tremendous. They know how to, work social media hard. And so we're blessed since it is hosted by Pentecostal Resources Group. That social media platform helps push on the social media side. I gotta think there's just good old word of mouth going on too.
Absolutely. I think
And so you get some of that going. And here's the beauty. And so I'll say this to encourage someone out there that's thinking about starting a podcast. I encourage the route of bringing on guests. Like there were certain seasons early on where I just did it all because I'm still figuring it out. Maybe it was a topic that I just really wanted to talk about. But when you bring on a guest, and then we always ask them, please share it on your social media. That starts that social media, pyramid effect or whatever. And everybody they're connected to that maybe wasn't already aware. Now it's just continuing to expand the audience. So I like the guest interview anyway, just because it's so fun. It's so conversational. But it also serves a purpose that then when they say, hey, I was on this podcast, check it out, then the people they're connected to. And that's just a cool byproduct of having those guest conversations.
Well, I like having guests because it's just so much fun. It makes it easy to do.
Yeah.
The guests make the job easy.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I think is our listeners. So for marketing for Let's Talk, yes, Julie Long is doing a great job getting it out there. Districts that share, the ladies ministries team that's working and sharing and getting it out there. But it's our listeners that they're loving it and they're sharing it and making it so word of mouth plus, their own social media. So I'm very grateful to our listeners.
But for both of you, are you surprised by the people that listen? I know you're hitting this target, but I know that we talked about analytics and the people that you're reaching that you didn't even intend to reach. So talk to me a little bit about how that audience looks. You weren't expecting those kind of people.
Yeah, it was surprising when I got those results. So where do you know that your podcast is being heard?
That's a great question. I'll actually go back and ask our team. I don't know in terms of location, but I remember the team after the first season, we wanted to look at the numbers and say, is this working? How well are we doing? And I didn't know, I don't know what a good, Apple Podcasts. I don't know what those analytics should be. I don't know what good is, but I remember I could read their faces and they were like, wow, I could tell they were excited. So I'm like, okay, I don't know, I don't even remember what the number was, but they were excited. They're like, this is really good for the first season of a new podcast. And so I'm like, okay. So that's one of those things where I don't know what those numbers are. And I don't know, once you dig in, we're back to the software really does help you understand some of those analytics. But yeah, it is cool when it starts growing beyond what you could envision originally.
Well, when I heard that Let's Talk was it in the top 10 on Spotify?
Yeah.
Wow.
The year before when they gave the report, I was like, you got to be
That's so
kidding.
cool.
That was amazing
Yeah.
to me, because this is apostolic.
Yeah, that's great.
But then listening to the different countries,
Yes, the different countries.
That
That
was-
was really interesting.
that was like the gospel truly can go
Yeah.
anywhere in the world. And maybe this isn't like we're not using scripture and we're not preaching a sermon today, but if we're encouraging other women believers, other apostolic women, and they're listening, and today it's on podcasting, but there's different topics. And if you think, wow, my sister in this other country
Yeah.
listened and maybe was possibly encouraged because we just took the time to sit at a table and record.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. The love of God and how he moves on us. And, and I'm sure you're the same way. Even though it feels like, oh, I'm organizing it and I have this topic or I have these things that we want to cover. Sometimes it just comes down to the love of God. And he's saying, no, you need to record this topic. You need to make this available. You need to have this person because I'm going to bring this all together.
Yeah.
And it could be for one person somewhere, we'll never even know about until heaven. I don't know if we'll ever know.
Absolutely.
But it makes it worth the doing.
Yes.
Yeah. So in the print copy or the digital copy of Reflections magazine coming out September 1st. I think it's September.
Yes.
I get all my dates, but it's going to be the next one coming up. Is a lot on the very specifics of how to podcast
Fantastic.
and equipment to podcast and how to get started and all of that. So we're really getting to the end and we're not going to have a lot of time left. So there's a lot of things we wish we could have talked about and we didn't. So Leanne, from everything that's been said or has not yet been said, why don't you take a few minutes and just say things I wish I knew before I got started and advice to listeners?
Yeah. Well, I'll do two things.
Okay.
I'll recap what we've already said, that willingness to be flexible, to go with the flow, let it be organic, let it be a conversation, and just try to relax and bring out that conversational approach. I do think is key, both from the side of the individual episodes and the way they feel to just this whole planning thing. Like you just said, part of that being open and organic. And I'm not going to just throw in the towel if a drive gets corrupted and we got to
Drone flies over my head.
I'm going to go with it. And it's all the ultimate big picture is going to be accomplished. So I think that's one takeaway from the conversation. Now, one thing we haven't said yet that I do want to share, even we're talking about the Whollyness Podcast today. By the time this episode comes out, I don't know if it will yet have happened, but we're actually talking about some revamps, maybe even tweaking the name yet again, moving a little different direction. And here's one of the reasons why. I was doing research on small group ministry. Okay, feels unrelated, but I was reading a book about small group ministry, but they really backed up and they talked more broadly about just ministry and working as people of the church. And the guy said, and man, I didn't like it when I read it. But it really has stuck with me. He said, about every 2 years, you need to blow up whatever your ministry is and looks like. And when I read that, I'm like, oh, this for somebody who's like all about structure and perfecting the processes, that is the most horrifying thing to hear in the world. It takes 2 years just feel like you're just starting to get everything together.
Just get a little comfortable.
Yeah, we're just getting a rhythm. And the point is just because our world is changing so quickly, if you get stuck doing something the same way, it is going to get stale so quickly. So even though I've shared a lot from the Whollyness Podcast, we're looking at a revamp, a rebrand, just an overhaul, because it's now several seasons into it. And we realized just to keep it fresh so we don't start rehashing some of the same conversations, we're going to probably move a different direction. So even by the time this comes out, I know we'll still have the Whollyness podcast available in many channels, but there also may be some new versions of it coming. And I bring that up to say, for those who maybe are watching this and you already have been podcasting a while, think about, is what I'm doing still working? Is
That's
it
good.
still fresh?
Yeah.
If it's starting to be that we're hitting some of those same tracks and we're getting in a rut, mix it up. If it looks like, it may not mean you got to rebrand, rename the whole thing, but what can we do to make sure that we're keeping this?
Love that.
Keeping it in meaningful, so that as people interact, while we love that brand loyalty and they know when they come they're getting something. In my case, we start out so specific, and that's part of it. Different podcasts depending on their what their initial hook is. Some people have a lot more leeway, but the overall principle is be willing to take a fresh look to make sure that what you're doing is still really meeting a need and meaningful to your people.
That's really good.
Don't fall so in love with what you do that you can't be willing to step back and let others speak into it as well. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
I'm so glad you took time to join us today.
It's been a delight. Thanks for this great podcast that y'all are doing.
We're having fun.
It's great.
We don't want to blow it up yet.
That's right.
Yes.
A lot of great things
I
going.
I feel like somebody's blowing it up, but it's not intentional. I probably have blown it up a few times.
Oh, so much fun, y'all.
We're having a good time. So, Jennie, thank you for co-hosting with me today, and our team that's working so hard with us. But we're having a general conference session.
Yes.
Well, we
aren't, but you are.
Ladies Ministries Reflections Magazine's having it. So tell us a little bit about that.
All right. If you're going to be at General Conference, September 22nd through the 26th, it's here in St. Louis. There's going to be, I want to make sure I get it right.
You better read it.
Let me read it.
We don't want to go into the wrong building.
Yeah. You want to go into the America Center, room 260. And it's going to be September the 25th on a Thursday from 4:30 to 5:20. And the title is Faith in the Feed, a Content Creator's Guide to Digital Discipleship. And I feel like this goes along with that. So if you're a content creator or you want to start a podcast, you want to come to this, discover how to use your online platform to inspire, engage, and disciple in the digital age. I love this little.
Very cool.
This seminar equips content creators with practical tools and strategies to authentically share their faith, build meaningful connections, and transform followers into disciples. So learn how to craft messages that resonate, navigate the challenges of online ministry, and make an eternal impact. One podcast at a time. One post or podcast at a time.
There we go.
See, this is where we're flexible.
Yay, there you go.
But I think this is going to be a great session. I'm planning on going.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
I think it's going to be really fun.
I mean, I hadn't intended to talk about blowing up your podcast, but we could add that into the mix, That's fun. No, it's going to be a great time, and it's going to be several different speakers in there, a lot of information to share. So, and also, I just want to remind all of you who are listening in or viewing, we do have show notes. We do have recommendations from other people on some great apostolic podcasts that we're enjoying listening to. So you want to go there, you can get more information on that, and join us next month. We're going to be talking about women who podcast, and Melinda Poitras will be joining us for that one. So, yeah, she's always a lot of fun. So thank you so much. And mostly what we want to say right now is, if you feel like the Lord's been laying it on your heart, giving you just this idea, again, it doesn't have to be a sermon, a Bible study, a theological conversation. Maybe it's just words of encouragement, or maybe you have an expertise in a certain field and you're an apostolic voice in that field, and you want to connect other women to godly resources and a biblical way of thinking about the work that you're doing. So please prayerfully consider the next step. God bless. Until next time.